My name is Allie Grine. My lesson is called Multiple Strategy Instruction, and it's for third grade. And I'm only doing the teach model portion to act as a multiple day lesson. Okay, so today we are going to be working with our multiple strategies when working with informational text. And today I'm just going to be teaching you and modeling to you these strategies so we can be ready to work with them tomorrow with our text. So first I'm going to start with our teaching strategies chart that you can see here on the board. And I'm going to be explaining to you that we're going to be doing scanning the text, brainstorming what you already know about the topic, and then predicting what you'll learn. So first we're going to start with our scanning. So we're going to look here at our teaching chart, and we're going to be reading Pioneers on the Oregon Trail. So this is an informational text. So what does that mean? What does informational mean? That means it's real. It actually happened. This is a real text. So we're going to be looking for features such as headings, maps, illustrations, captions, bold-faced text, italic text, sidebars, and things like that. So if you see one, give me a thumbs up. So I'll begin my preview by scanning the top of the page. So you can see here on top of the page, I'm scanning, I'm looking, and this is the topic of selection. Or hold on. So I can see the title. So it's called Pioneers on the Oregon Trail at the top of the page. So this is the topic of selection. So when I see two boldface headings, the way west and packing for the journey. I see a sidebar with italicized text in it, as you can see here. The text is a quote. So below the quote, I see a picture of a covered wagon. At the bottom of the page, I see a timeline of historical events. So you can see how I scanned the whole page and I picked out what I knew. So now we're going to brainstorm what we know. So can anyone tell me what brainstorm means? Right. It means getting out our ideas and thinking what we have in our brains, what we already know, what we might want to know. So using what you saw during my scan of the text, then you brainstorm what you already know about the topic. From cowboy movies, I know that pioneers traveled in covered wagons. I also know that the pioneers traveled from east to west. As you brainstorm, we're going to record our ideas on the board. So now what we're going to do is predict what you'll learn. So who knows what predict means? Right, so it's what we think is going to happen. So as we're looking at our predictions, after you think about what you already know about the topic, you then predict what you will learn after you're done reading. So predictions are based on clues in the text and what you already know about the topic. So when you make a prediction, you then tell what makes you think so. So you're giving evidence. So based on the title, headings, and picture of the cover wagon, I predicted I will learn about the pioneers' journey west and their journey west to Oregon in the covered wagons. So based on the quote, I predict I will learn what the journey was like for the pioneers. Based on the second heading, I predict that one of the things I will learn is how and what the pioneers packed for their journey. So as we do this, we're going to write it on the board. And we're going to keep them up because we're going to need these later. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to read the text, and during the reading we're going to be using the strategies click and clunk and get the gist. So we're going to start with click and clunk. So this is words or concepts whose meanings we understand. Click. So that's like a train on a rolling track. We can hear the clicks. It sounds good. It's going well. But word concepts concepts whose meanings we don't understand, that's a clunk. So that's like hitting an obstacle. When the train's going and it hits something, it stops. So when you hit a word meaning clunk, you can use a fix-up strategy such as the vocabulary strategy to help you figure it out. So remember, the vocabulary strategy is a strategy for figuring out the meaning of an unfamiliar word by using context and word parts, clues in combination. So I'm going to read aloud the way west to start. So I'm not sure what the word territory means. So this word is unfamiliar to me. That's a clunk. So I'm going to use step 1 of the vocabulary strategy, and I'm going to look for my context clues. So I'm going to read the words, phrases, and sentences surrounding territory to see if I can find any context clues. So in the 5th sentence, I think I may have found a synonym clue for territory. What is synonym? Right, it means it's a different word, but it has a similar meaning. So I found the phrase miles and miles of beautiful land. So territory might have something to do with land. So step 2A says to try and break the word into parts. I don't see a meaningful prefix or suffix in this word, so I'll skip to step 3. So step 3 says to use context clues I found in step 1 to guess the meaning of the word, because the phrase miles and miles, I think a territory might be a big piece of land. Do you agree? Raise your hand. Okay, I thought so too. So step 4 says to try out my meaning in the original sentence to see whether or not it makes sense in context. So I'm going to substitute big area of land for territory. Lewis and Clark explored the big area of land west of the Mississippi. I think that makes sense. So now we're going to use get the gist. So get the gist is kind of a summarizing into a short sentence. So it also means shrinking. So I'm going to reread the first paragraph of The Way West, and I'll identify who or what the paragraph is mostly about. So the main who or what in this paragraph is Lewis and Clark. Now I'll identify the most important information about the who or what. So I think the most important information about Lewis and Clark is that they explored the territory of west of the Mississippi. So they were describing it in their maps and in their journals. So finally, I'll shrink the information into a really good main idea or gist, the gist statement. So here's my remember it has to be in 10 words or less. So here's my main idea statement of gist. Lewis and Clark were first to explore the territory west of the Mississippi. So now we're going to work on our click and clunk in the second paragraph of The Way West. So in this paragraph, everything is clicking for me. I don't have any clunks. I get all the words, so everything is rolling and it's smooth, and I understand everything in this paragraph. So now we're going to go back to our get the gist in the second paragraph. So now I'm going to get the gist of this paragraph. The main who or what in this paragraph is people. So I think the most important information about people is that they traveled west on the Oregon Trail, hoping to make their dreams come true. So my get the gist statement is people traveled west on the Oregon Trail, hoping to make their dreams come true. But do we see the problem here? Right, I have too many words. I have 14 words and I need 10 or less. Otherwise, we don't have a get the gist. So I need to shrink it a little. So people have traveled west, hoping to make their dreams come true. That's 10. That'll work. So now we're going to do our click and clunk for the packing for the journey. This is a different one. So I have a clunk. I'm not sure what the word belonging means. So I'm going to print the word on the board and we're going to talk about it. So step 1 of the vocabulary strategy is to look for my context clues. So I'm going to look through my paragraph to see what I can find. So the word personal in the same sentence might be a context clue. In the sixth sentence, special treasures also might be a context clue. So belongings could be a special personal thing. Also, step 2 says to look for word part clues. I see 2 word parts in the word belongings. The root word belong and the suffix ings, ings. So the root word of belongings is belong. If something belongs to you, you own it. It's yours. Step 3 says to guess the meaning of the word. So I think belonging means what a person owns. So step 4 says to try out my meaning in the same sentence, in the original sentence, to see if it makes sense. So I'm going to substitute what each person owned for personal belongings. As a result, there was no room left for what each person owned. I think that makes sense. Do you agree? Yeah, me too. So now I'm going to do get the gist for packing for the journey. So now for the gist, the main who or what in this paragraph is what the pioneers could take. So I think the most important information is they could only take food, tools, and supplies because their covered wagons were very small. They didn't have very much room. So my main idea statement, or my get the gist, is the pioneers could fit only necessary things in the covered wagons. And that works. That's about under 10. So now we're going to wrap up all that we just learned. And I'm going to do some ask and answer questions. So when you ask and answer questions, you think about the kinds of questions a teacher might ask on a test. So I'm going to ask you them now, but if I were to give you a test, some of these questions might be on there. So I'm going to model by generating questions about what we just read. So focusing on the ideas in my main statements, or my get the gist, I'll begin reading each question with who, what, when, where, why, or how. So I'll make sure that the answers to my questions reflect 3 different types of QAR right there, think, or search, and author in me. So here are my questions. So who explored the territory west of the Mississippi in the early 1800s? Right, Lewis and Clark. So that is a right there question. So what did the pioneers leave behind? They left behind some of their belongings, their actual home, special treasures, or even family and friends. Might have been a small family that left. So that's a think and search, because that's quite a bit of information. So we need to go back to our text and think and search for it. So what do you think people were willing to pack up and head west? Why do you think people were willing to pack up and head west? They thought they would get rich, right? Because they knew there was gold in California, so they wanted to go see if they could get some too. So that was an author in me question. You guys did a great job. So now we're going to review what we just learned. So I know it's a lot, but let's try and do our best. So in the second part of the wrap-up, you review by looking at the important information that we just learned. It also helps to first go back to the list of brainstorms and predictions that we made in the preview, or confirm or revise them. And confirm or revise them. So both of my brainstorms were confirmed in the text. I predicted that I would learn what the journey was like for the pioneers, specifically about how and what they packed. From the text, I learned that it was a long journey and that the pioneers could only pack the essentials that would fit in their wagons. So I also learned other information. So now I'm going to jot down my review. So I learned that people knew about the West from Lewis and Clark. After gold was discovered in California in 1848, that was such a long time ago, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So thousands of pioneers crossed the Oregon Trail in covered wagons in search of a new life. The Oregon Trail was thousands of miles long and took several months to cross. Months, can you imagine? The pioneers could bring with them only what was necessary to survive. So tomorrow, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do this again. We're going to do it together, and then you're going to be able to do it on your own. You guys did such a wonderful job today.